Hello, Falls on a Hill, Foals, Antidotes. 15 years?
Damn.
15
Foals on a Hill.
years. Foals' debut record, Antidotes, as I've just said, has reached its 15th birthday. We like Foals. You like Foals.
Do you want to say that any other way, or
15 years ago.
15 years ago, Oxford-based math rock band, Foals. No, we like Foals. Let's talk about Foals.
It's a classic.
We are on a very strict time limit.
Yeah, so it's good that you're
So
doing
I'm
all
going to
this.
go, let's get
Yeah,
straight
Jesus
really good.
Christ.
into it. Let's open with the French Open.
Yes.
Thoughts?
But it definitely sets the tone of the album. However, and I'm going to just get this in now,
hate
this
the
album's
French.
shit. No, it's not really. There's a lot of it sounds very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the struggle with the style they were at that time with the math rock. Because they obviously picked the sound and they were good at it, but there's not much variation.
That is very, very true.
So the French Open, it's fine. However, I feel like it would have been a much more impactful start if they would have just opened with Cassius.
Yeah.
I don't think I agree with that personally. I think it's a great opener. The horns coming in and kind of setting the scene for that, which is something I wish they did a lot more. Always, because they sound great throughout this album. But yeah, particularly the kind of that long opening with the horns and the song itself. I think it's a great opener, as I've said, and leading into Cassius works so much better than if it just went straight into Cassius, I think.
Well, we disagree there.
We do disagree.
Moving on to that song, Cassius. Great song.
Slap us
We're on a
so
run now.
hard.
We're on a good run of tracks for the next few, and they're fantastic. This might be the first song from this album that I was familiar with.
Was for me.
That I became acquainted to.
And for
with.
me.
And although I don't know what I was going to say, it's great. I enjoy it. The horns in this are fantastic, and it doesn't get too repetitive or too boring because it's just rapid.
Mm-hmm.
But there's enough to keep it interesting. That whole like middle part where like it sort of breaks down is great. It's great. Drumming's fantastic on this album, but on this song as well, it's great.
Yeah, I agree. This song has got hard nostalgia for me. Reminds me of someone in this very Skype call that I will talk about when we ask some questions later. Fat Slapper.
Yeah, no, Cassius is the one. It's the one that the only one I was familiar with from this album for a long time. We'll talk about it later, but didn't really listen to the full album much. But this song has always been a constant in my life. I think what you said, Yanni, about it kind of not sounding too repetitive and not sounding kind of too much. The guitars are all they're not constant. If you like the separate guitar parts, there's plenty of space. So although it sounds like things are just constantly going, there's plenty of space between every instrument, which is so well done. And yeah, obviously the horns are fantastic, and I really do think the French Open finishing and then just like that a beat and then straight into Cassius is superb.
Next up, Red Sox Pudgy. Without giving anything away, this is my favourite. I love this. The whole like sort of airy and like atmospheric sort of open. The drum sounds are great at the start of this. Even though they're very aggressive, it doesn't really feel that aggressive. And then when it gets into it, that riff and just the singing and everything, it's just fucking bop.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of this actual album, I wasn't really too familiar with this song until we went to see them live, Yanni, in like 2015.
Okay.
And then since
Is that where you got speared?
that is where I nearly got halved. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, not being funny, I went flying. Um, and it is just a great song. It's a constant for me now. I do love this track. But also, I've kind of stopped listening to Foals recently. The last album I didn't even listen to the full album, but
Yeah.
this has really made me want to go on a Foals binge. So I'm happy.
I'm happy you're happy, Carl. Yeah, I wasn't so familiar with this one. Like I didn't recognise the name at all. I do recognise that kind of main melody, like the vocal melody and stuff, and it really is a slapper.
Really
is a slapper. The kind of that intro with, as you say, like the very frantic kind of manic drumming, and then the way it breaks and opens up. Superb. Two superbs. Wow.
Next up, more than that. Next up,
Well,
Olympic Airways. Great song. The guitar in this is something that just gives me instant nostalgia. It's harmonics for people who give a shit. Most people don't, but just playing harmonics. It's such a simple thing.
Yep.
To like that's actually being played, but it's just so effective, and the vocals on this are just so perfect for it.
Yep, I agree. As a actual song, I think this is Foals potentially at their best. It does everything you want the band to do, especially in this less heavy style that they had at the start.
It does get heavy though.
It does get heavy, yeah, but yeah, it's fantastic live as well.
Showcases it all, doesn't it? Really,
it does.
Yeah, and I think this kind of peaks at what is to come from Foals and like later albums like Holy Fire and stuff like that. It definitely feels a bit later than Antidotes. If that makes sense. It's kind of an outlier almost on this album, but yeah, incredible song.
Well, there's another song coming up that I would say the same about. But it's not this next one, which is Electric Bloom. I really like this one. I like how dark this is. And it's just another hospital. Really good. Just what's been played and the way it's being sung. It's really good. And there's a whole like build up in the middle, which is just fantastic. All the guitars sort of doing almost similar things, but it's like harmonics of one another. It's just really good.
It is. I wasn't really too familiar with this one when I put it on to do this review. But recency bias aside, I think it's one of my favourites on the record now.
I'd also want to say, sorry, that the ending of this is very sort of what's to come of Foals as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This one, so this and Cassius are the ones that I've kind of always had in a playlist, and without ever really revisiting the album as a whole. And yeah, I absolutely love this. How dark it is. Everything you said, Yanni.
Thank you. Next up,
Right.
Balloons. Another bop.
Yeah.
Just straight up bopping. I love the guitar in this. It's so like weird, but it's just, it gets your hips going.
It does. It is a quintessential indie track.
Yeah.
It is fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. And the horns are great in this. The way the horns are used is phenomenal. I was reading about when they made this album, like a few of the weird like techniques and stuff. And one of them was like the horn players or the brass players not playing directly into a microphone. And you can kind of hear that the way it doesn't sound direct. It kind of sounds like it's subdued in a kind of weird way. And I think incredible. The sound of every bit of brass on this album is phenomenal.
Yes. That was the fantastic run of songs that we've just passed. We are still on good songs. The next one is Heavy Water. The start of this is very Total Life Forever, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Very Total Life. This isn't one that I really visit much, but in context of the album, it works very well. And when you get to about the halfway point and it switches up a bit, it's good. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I never used to really be that mad on it, but then since revisiting the album, yeah, I've kind of changed my tune on it. Especially as you say, yeah, the second half of it is really good. The build up is just lovely, and I do kind of think it suffers from being after one of the best 5-track runs you're
Yeah.
likely to see in an album of this nature.
Hmm.
But it is still a very good track.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It does suffer from that. However, I do also think it's in exactly the right place on this album.
Yeah.
It's not its fault, I guess, that the other songs are so
Yeah.
incredible.
Definitely.
But it comes at like the perfect place, a bit of a respite. Yeah, another great song.
Next up, Two Steps Twice. I said this to you boys in the chat, but why this isn't the closer is beyond me. I know, obviously, I think we associate it because it's the closer whenever they perform it live, but it just is a closer song.
100%.
When it finished and it went into the next one, I was like, what the fuck's going on?
If anybody hasn't watched, I think it's Glastonbury, might be Reading and Leeds, the performance on YouTube that's like 10 minutes long. They get the Disclosure drummer out.
All
It's
right.
fucking incredible. It's just, it's the definition of anthem. It's unreal. And not to go too far ahead, but the next 3 songs I could do without except Big Big Love. I think if they put Big Big Love before this and then end on Two Steps Twice, it's an amazing album.
Perfect album, yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I wholeheartedly agree with everything you said. I was so unfamiliar with the next 3 songs. Apart from Big Big Love, I definitely have listened to that before, but the last 2 I don't think I've ever heard before revisiting this for this. But yeah, Two Step Twice, great song. Really incredibly crafted, well crafted, and it should be the closer.
Peak Foals it is.
Oh, show.
Next up, we mentioned it, Big Big Love. Again, this is one that is very Total Life Forever, in my opinion. I love this song. However, it just is in the wrong place. Yeah. Which is really annoying.
Yeah. Everything about it makes me feel emotional. The guitars, it just making so many nice sounds, and it is lovely. But yeah, it does suffer from where it is, and that's a shame because I feel like it deserves justice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is a great song, and you're so right. For me, this song reminds me of just the music of like 2013. Like that sound, and I think it's probably because that's probably about when, spoilers, I listened to it for the first time, or listened to Foals, I guess. But yeah, there's something about the sound of the guitar, especially through like the beginning, feels very like around that era of music, and that as well as the song itself creates so much kind of a nostalgic feeling. It's really.
If you were to listen to all the albums in one day by Foals, which would be a weird thing to do. But if it was this album, it played through, then it finished on Big Big Love into Total Life Forever, that would work like perfectly, like absolutely perfectly. But unfortunately, that's not the way the world works.
Sadly not.
Next up, we've got Like Swimming. And the next 2, to be honest, I'm not that familiar with. Like Swimming is a little bit pointless. It's just an instrumental. Sounds nice, but it doesn't really feel like an album where there should be an instrumental like this.
Yeah, I just put catchy but unnecessary.
Yeah, there's enough instrumentation on the album.
Yeah.
They don't need just the kind of solo instrumental. Yeah, I agree.
But the way it breaks down into like bit crushed sounds into then Tron works very well. And Tron is a good song. Not one of my favourites. But yeah, it kind of feels like a B-side. Like it doesn't feel like it should be on the album.
Yeah, well, the next 2 tracks that are on Spotify, I don't know what it's like on Apple
Yeah,
Music,
they're the same for me.
Say bonus track, and this should say bonus track.
Yeah.
Objectively, very good song. I don't need it, and I've checked out at this point.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Not much more to talk.
You got the questions up, Liam? Oh, sorry. Yanni. No,
I was just going to say, on streaming, it's the same for Spotify and Apple Music, and probably other streaming things, but Brazil Is Here and Dearth are a part of just the normal album that you get, but we're not going to talk about them because it's not on the original track list.
Yeah. Yeah. Same.
Yeah. There you go.
Questions, guys. First experience.
Come on.
Well, my first experience was listening to Cassius with none other than Mr. Curly Boy in the corner.
That's me.
We used to sit. Well, we went through a little phase of sitting near the teachers' car park on the grass in our high school, which is a very strange place to sit, but it was very quiet. And
Nice little bank.
this
Was
was
very quiet.
the enemy era, and I remember listening to Cassius regularly with Liam.
Go on.
Yeah, I mean that would have been when I first listened to that song particularly. I probably didn't actually visit the album fully for a
same.
while, and
Yeah.
I really wasn't familiar with it properly until doing this episode. Really, so like last week or something. If even not.
I can't remember whether I had heard Cassius like knocking about, but I feel like the first time I was fully aware of it was when you, Liam, started listening to Foals. I think you heard Inhaler.
It would have been when Holy Fire came out.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then I remember you saying you listened to Inhaler. I remember watching a video for that. Have very fond memories of watching that, and then exploring on YouTube like all the other sort of like Foals music videos and stuff. And obviously, like Cassius was one of the most recommended ones, kind of thing. So it would have been around that point. And then I didn't really listen to the album as a whole until much later, until we met our friend Ethan, Carl, because he loves this album. This is his favourite Foals album, I think.
Well, talking of Foals albums, we've missed the anniversary. It was in February, but Holy Fire has reached 10 years this year, and I think we should do that at some point because that's my favourite Foals album.
Oh wow! Yeah, maybe we should do that. Maybe we should do a rank off as well.
Ooh,
Has the album, however, Antidotes? I got those words mixed up so much. Has it aged well, guys? In the 15 years it's been alive.
It's hard to say. I'd probably say objectively no.
Yeah,
because this kind of genre of music is very of its time. So yeah.
Yeah, completely agree.
I agree. I do feel like when I was listening to it, you can kind of hear some new bands, like that kind of post math rock bands that are around at the moment. You can definitely hear some of it. I don't know if that's actually influenced by this album and Foals though, or if it's just the genre kind of thing. But yeah, I definitely do think it's a product of the time. But I'm happy about that because it just takes you back to that time. I don't feel like every album needs to feel like it's from last year.
Correct.
It's good that it kind of sits in its place in history, and it sits there very well. I'm going to say, compared to their other works before favourite track, what do we think? How does this compare to their other albums?
I think some individual songs are the best they've got. As an album, not necessarily one I'd put on, but that might change after revisiting it for this because I've enjoyed my time.
Yeah, I think before revisiting it, I didn't think there was as many songs on it that I actually liked, but there mostly is. So, my favourite album is Total Life Forever, and then it's probably Holy Fire, and then this. But that is purely to do with nostalgia and time spent with the albums as a whole. So, yeah.
Liam?
Fair. I've never been a full Foals album kind of guy ever. Whenever I've tried in the past, I've never really gelled with a full album, so I've always just kind of stuck to singles. I think I will actually this afternoon give every album a go. So I can't really say. So in that case, it's probably number one, but that doesn't really mean anything. And something that does mean something. Favorite track from the album?
I think for nostalgia, probably Cassius. For actual enjoyment, especially live, it would be Two Steps Twice.
For me, I mentioned at the time, but Red Sox Pudgy, it's just the one I go to.
I would say probably, partly for nostalgia, Cassius. I do think it's probably one of the best tracks on this album, if not the best, objectively. But maybe Electric Bloom. I'll give something different. Yeah, I really do enjoy Electric Bloom.
Yeah, it's up there. And that is it.
that is it indeed. Thank you for listening to us talk about Antidotes, the debut album of Foals, and its anniversary of 15 years.
Give or take a few weeks.
That is crazy talk. If you agree, let us know. If you don't, whatever. Like, subscribe, ding a bell, all that jazz. Go below, and thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.